we're gonna give you the #1 squat exercise that every distance runner needs, and we're gonna start right now. So one of the big issues around distance running is that you've got to put a ton of miles on your legs. And so when we look at that, we take a beating. We forget that distance running is a contact sport. Think about every time that you're planting into the ground, you're getting a ground reaction force. And that can beat up your ankles, that can beat up your knees, that can beat up your hips, that can beat up even your lower back. Sometimes when I'm running, my shoulders even get really tight. So we've got to look at what can we do, one, to maintain mobility or possibly increase mobility. Two, we need to focus on strengthening our legs. Three, we need to focus on strengthening our legs without getting super hypertrophic. So that's the lens that we need to look at. And that first exercise I'm gonna give you is a fantastic squat variation. It's not the absolute best movement that you can use for distance running, but it's unbelievable. And that is going to be a pause back squat. Now, if I show this, right, and I'm really tight, I'm gonna get into this position here, but I'm gonna pause, 1, 2, boom. Okay, and I'm gonna stay upright out of the bottom. I'm gonna push through that flat foot. Now again, 1, 2, let's go one more. 1, 2. So as a distance runner, if you can do something like 4 triples with a 2 to 3 second pause, you're going to increase the strength of your legs. You're gonna hold that bottom position, which is gonna improve your mobility. And even if you're focusing on driving up as quickly as possible, that's gonna help that intent, that mind muscle action, and even your impulse. So use that pause back squat at least once a week to strengthen those legs. So one big aspect around distance running, especially when you start getting into those miles where you're going 10 miles, 12 miles, 13 miles, oftentimes our hamstrings start to get really tight. Our hamstrings even start to feel a little bit weak. And if we're trying to increase the strength in our posterior chain, this next exercise is absolutely amazing and probably my all-time favorite strength exercise movement to increase your speed outside the single leg squat. Now, if we're gonna use this exercise is fantastic. It's not the absolute best. I would pair it similarly to where the pause back squat is, but it's absolutely incredible. And that's gonna be a Nordic hamstring curl, or we call these hamstring pulls. So what I wanna do is focus on right here. I can feel my hamstrings already active. I wanna stay as upright as possible. Oftentimes, the best thing to do is to just do a couple easy reps here where you go nice and easy with the eccentric here, boom, and you get a little bit of a cheat and you come back up. And a lot of people will cramp at the top of their calf. Some people, they'll even feel a little bit inside their knee because they're so tight in their hamstring. And a lot of people will also cramp immediately in their hamstrings. Now, one thing to be aware of is that if you tend to have an injury on one side versus the other, even an ankle issue, or you're swaying when you're running, you'll really notice this as you're doing the Nordic. You'll sort of shoot to one side versus the other, depending upon what your issues are. So I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna do 3 more here. 2 more. I wanna try and keep my hips through a little bit more. So you can use the Nordic to improve your speed and improve that strength in your posterior chain. I would recommend once a week because you will be sore from these and you don't want it to interrupt your overall distance running. But if you can do this, you'll strengthen that hamstring leading into your glute, which is gonna help you with that overall power output. So one of my favorite things inside Peak Strength is that we've developed accessories based around distance running, especially inside of our marathon program. That's a program that I've been doing on a regular basis. And this past weekend, I ran 20.35 miles following that program, okay? So it actually helps us solely with the strength training portion, and we even use plyometrics. But this next exercise, we've built out inside of Peak Strength. So if you guys need help with strength training, as a distance runner, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store, and you can get 5 free workouts, a full week of free training. Now, this next exercise, a variation of this is inside of Peak Strength, but I'm gonna show you that exercise on steroids, okay? So it's gonna look like this. If I'm doing a walking lunge, this could be a walking lunge, right? Here, boom, 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 okay? Normal walking lunge. Now, what I wanna do to focus on the ground reaction forces is I'm gonna go here, boom, boom. Notice what I did there. Boom, I drop, walking lunge. Here, boom, boom. One more, boom, Perfect, there. So what we're doing is we're training the posterior chain. We're trying to lengthen the glute, the hamstrings, even that stride with the quad. And the other factor is that that little drop is gonna help us be a little bit more upright with our trunk. And if we're running, we're gonna have a slight forward lean. Okay, just a slight forward lean, and we're gonna ground, typically squatted, almost exactly like this, like in this position as we're running. This walking lunge with that drop aspect is gonna help improve your trunk control and help improve your mobility and that unilateral strength. So we took the back squat, we took the Nordics, those are bilateral movements. Now we're bringing in that unilateral aspect to help strengthen our distance running. But again, this is not the absolute best leg exercise for distance runners. That's the next one. Now the next exercise, I'm gonna show you some versatility first, and then we're gonna reveal the best leg strengthening exercise for distance runners that I would be willing to bet 99.9% of people have not seen, unless you've watched a recent wrestling video that we put out. If I'm gonna do, let's say, a single leg squat, one big cool aspect is that I can sort of change what I wanna look for as an adaptation based off of where my foot position is. So if I am struggling with my quads, I can be a little bit tighter here, okay? And if I wanna focus a little bit more on the hamstrings and the glutes, I can move that out here. And that's really gonna be dependent upon what I'm struggling with as a runner. If I'm struggling with hills, I would probably be a little bit tighter. If I'm struggling on the flat ground and I wanna try to improve my length of my stride, I would go a little bit further forward. So those are some key aspects. Now I'm gonna demonstrate the actual movement that can combine all of these aspects. And this is going to look like a single leg Kang squat. So just bear with me here, because we wanna target the posterior chain and we wanna target the quads at the same time. And I even like to think about this exercise. It feels almost exactly how it feels when you're trying to climb a hill. When you get to a hill, you're in mile 7, mile 8, mile 3, wherever you are, and you just start to feel your trunk starts to lean and you're struggling with that turnover, okay, you're struggling to bring that hip through, this movement is gonna help you quite a bit. So it's gonna look like this. And this is something that you could do 3 or 4 sets a week. Try to focus on that barbell position, and you can start very, very light. Again, you can pick up a single leg roller and stand at garagestrength.com, but I'm gonna look like this. And I'm gonna almost do like a little bit of a good morning. So I'm gonna lean forward. I want that forward lean here. Boom. And I wanna come up through with that chest and that hip. Boom. Okay? Boom. Boom. And that sort of scoop through, right? You will feel, woo, right through the hip and the quad because of where that foot placement's gonna be. So if you have it a little bit more narrow, it's gonna light up your quad on the concentric. On the eccentric, you're gonna feel it through that posterior chain in your glutes. And that's why I love this exercise. It's killing everything for you, which is gonna help make you stronger as a distance runner. So some of those big factors, we gotta look at the pause back squats to improve mobility and our strength. Nordics, improve that hamstring strength. Then we got into those drop walking lunges. Be creative, but only do that about once a week. And then finally, the single leg Kang squat is the #1 exercise that anybody as a distance runner can use to improve their overall strength. Because remember, freaks, if you wanna become a champion, you've always gotta cultivate your power. Peace.